Secret Russian and American negotiations took place on November 14th. The head of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Services and the director of the U.S. Intelligence Agency met in Ankara. The Russian and U.S. delegations met for the first time after the beginning of the Russian military operation in Ukraine. The talks were held based on the initiative of the American side. According to a CNN report, the parties discussed detained U.S. citizens as well as the consequences of the possible use of nuclear weapons. The delegates, however, did not talk about any possible settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. Nevertheless, the first meeting of U.S. and Russian high-ranking officials is an important step towards the de-escalation of the conflict. Earlier, the media reported that the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan recommended to Vladimir Zelensky to think about any realistic requirements and priorities for negotiations with Moscow, including the revision of Kiev's goal of returning Crimea. However, Washington does not seek peace, but pushes Kiev to create leverage on Russia thanks to its apparent readiness to enter into negotiations. In his turn, Zelensky addressed the leaders of the G20 and outlined the conditions necessary to end the conflict. According to him, the peace process will become possible when Russia confirms the territorial integrity of Ukraine, withdraws its troops from its territory, and pays compensation for the damage. Zelensky also called for an international conference to strengthen a key element of the post-war security architecture and to prevent a repeat of this conflict. The infamous commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine, Zaluzhnyi, made it clear that he is indifferent to the decisions of the political leadership of his country. The armed forces of Ukraine will not accept any negotiations and agreements between Kiev and Moscow as long as Russian troops remain on Ukrainian territories. In his turn, the deputy foreign minister of Russia also claimed that Russia does not accept the preconditions for the start of negotiations on Ukraine, including the need for the withdrawal of Russian troops. Moscow is ready for negotiations, but the Ukrainians must take into account the situation on the battlefield. Declaring their intention to avoid an escalation of the war in Europe, Kiev's Western partners continue to add fuel to the fire. The Pentagon has signed new contracts with the Lockheed Martin Corporation for $520 million to replenish the high-precision missiles for the MLRS systems that have been delivered to Ukraine. Berlin and Warsaw are arguing who will take a leading role in the EU's mission to train Ukrainian servicemen. Meanwhile, the UN General Assembly is voting for a resolution on Russian reparations for Ukraine. Moscow responded with a warning that such a decision would have systemic consequences for the UN. The resolution is aimed to use frozen Russian assets to finance arms supplies to Ukraine and repay debts for weapons already transferred to Kiev.